Okay. Welcome back to another episode of A Dose of Reality. The final episode of 2023.
Get it.
Let's get it. It's been quite the year.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year.
It has been.
Yeah. A few things have happened.
A few things have happened. Mm-hmm. That's actually what we're getting into. A 2023 recap.
Right.
I thought that would be a good one to end the year out and, figure out or remind ourselves what actually happened this year.
Yeah,
because it's a bit of a blur.
It's a blur, right?
It's been a blur since 2019. That's what everyone says.
Yeah, I can't argue with it. It's a blur. I don't remember what happened in September. Never mind January. So
exactly.
It's going to be tough.
It's just bam, bam. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm back in my seat because I was missing for an episode.
Yeah, you were.
Did you all miss me?
Yeah.
I want to hear that.
They can't
They
say
can't let
anything.
me know.
This isn't live. They can't call
But
in.
yeah, I enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
Gotta get Ratchy back on.
Yeah. He's a decent fella. We definitely got some episodes planned with him. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
2024.
coming.
It's going to be good.
Got a few
it's
things
gonna be
coming.
Good. It's going to be good.
I
sat in your seat very well, I felt.
I was going to tell you, I do actually think you hosted very well.
Oh.
I will say that.
You think
because
that?
I can say nice things to
yeah?
you.
I
don't know about you.
No. See, I sat in the seat and I felt the pressure immediately. I was like, she does this every episode. So, like I said, it was all respect. But from the beginning, I always knew you was a great host.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
So
much.
I pushed you. It's like, yeah, you got this. And I was absolutely correct.
Okay, well, that seems more like a compliment.
Yeah, it morphed on the way. I did try. I was trying to. Listen, we'll come back to that. We'll circle back round. I'll get it right next time. I promise.
We are. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
But, I compiled the list. Obviously, it's not going to be every single big event that happened in 2023 or we'll be here all day.
That's fair.
But yeah, let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take it back to January.
Oh, we went all the way back to January.
That's where we're going.
That's a lifetime ago.
That's a while ago.
Mm.
So China reopens its borders to international visitors. This is January 8th, marking the end of their travel restrictions since they began in 2020.
Oh, wild. I didn't know that.
I didn't even know that.
It went on that long?
Yeah.
That's from COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, China were like, nobody's coming here.
No, we're going to get this together.
Yeah.
Before we let you all in.
And obviously the mainstream news story is that it started in China, which is interesting. It's interesting. But I didn't know that they had restrictions going on that long.
Yeah.
That's
neither did I, actually.
Yeah.
So that's one. Okay, January 10th to January 17th, we might recall this, a deadly cold snap in Afghanistan, which, claimed 166 lives and also nearly 80,000 livestock. Livestock, rather.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so that was crazy.
That's a bit wild.
Okay, takes us to January 21st. Burkina Faso requests French forces to withdraw from its territory after suspending military accords that allowed the presence of French troops in the country. So there was with Burkina Faso, their military coup was in 2022, I believe, which then saw Ibrahim Traoré take the seat as Burkina Faso president. So we've been seeing him a lot this year.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to get to.
Yeah, saw him alongside Putin, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Putin standing there like, yeah, black power. Yeah, no, we very much support what's going on in Burkina Faso and any African country that's doing anything similar in terms of getting rid of the colonizers and the oppressors and saying, listen, we're going to, even if we have to build from the bottom, even if it's going to take us a while to get where we should be based on the resources that are in our country, we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to own it ourselves. And we need to get rid of any forces that are trying to take that ownership effectively for themselves. And France, the French are notorious for doing so. So positive to see Burkina Faso and the president moving in that way. And yes, coups may be required because you might have puppet leaders.
Exactly.
Bought out leaders.
Exactly.
Sold their people out leaders.
Exactly.
You might have some of those. So yeah, we support them.
On to February. Okay, you're going to remember this one, and I can't actually believe it was that long ago, but the US announced it is tracking an alleged Chinese spy balloon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because remember, we was covering that on What's News.
That's
I'm
right.
like, that was really that long ago? But
February.
yeah, okay.
How did that play out in the end?
It was shot down next day, but then it triggered like a bunch of objects getting shot down. Mm-hmm. But it was... No, actually, I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, it was shot down, and then a second one hovering over Colombia and Brazil. The event is followed by subsequent detections and shoot-downs of high-altitude objects elsewhere, which, yeah, we saw. February 5th.
So there were things just flying across US airspace, and they blamed China, right? From what I can remember.
Yeah, well, that particular one, but then we're going to get on to another one, which we covered.
Go ahead.
But just in between that, on February 5th, Cyclone Freddy forms in the Indian Ocean. It would become the longest lasting tropical cyclone in history.
Oh. Did it stay out in the ocean? Did it affect people on land?
I think
that's what we're going to look into.
I think it did. I think it moved. And on to the 6th of February. I'm sure we all remember this because it was crazy. A massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria.
Right. A big one. It was huge.
Big one.
It was huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, it caused widespread damage and more than 59,000 fatalities and 121,000 injuries.
Yeah, I remember it was big numbers when you say it like that as well. Because I remember obviously in transition, you're seeing the numbers go up and up and up. Yeah, 59,000, that's huge. That's huge. But I do remember it was a big one. And it's obviously one that we all took note of. Like, ooh, what's going on? Craziness on the planet right now. Mm-hmm. Craziness on the planet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then, February 10th, mysterious object shot down over Alaska.
I remember
that.
Yeah, I remember that.
To this day, I don't think it's been said what it was. I was searching when I got reminded when I was putting this together. Yeah.
That's what they do, though. Have you noticed? Yeah. Anytime sometimes they blame someone, sometimes they blame China, sometimes they blame Russia, but sometimes they just let it fade and they just hope people don't pursue it and pursue the questioning of like, yo, what was that? They're just like, oh, other things are happening,
Yeah, it just, so much stuff is going on that eventually people forget because it's on to the next headline and then it just fades. Yeah. Like some questions are never answered.
Yeah, exactly that.
So yeah, on to March. March 14th, OpenAI launches ChatGPT-4, a large language module for ChatGPT, which can respond to images and can process up to 25,000 words. So, yeah, I'm thinking, did that start in March? I guess it did, but ChatGPT was a big thing.
Is it GPT or GBT?
GPT.
Is it GPT?
Yeah.
All this time, I was getting it wrong. I was saying things confidently as well. Yeah, ChatGPT. People must have been looking at me like, oh, you don't know. It's
so fast that you can't really catch.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, because I speak fast anyway. They probably thought. Yeah. AI is an interesting one, right? Because I automatically think of iRobot, Eagle Eye.
That's what I'm saying. We're about to be on some iRobot, Eagle Eye.
The Matrix. That's where that started.
Those movies stayed with me.
Terminator. Judgment Day. That's what's in my mind. Just the planet exploded. Machines like, yeah. We're taking
machines
over.
Looking at humanity and it's like, you're the problem. We're taking over.
Yeah, it's deep though. It's deep. I laugh and joke about it, but the deep thing about iRobot was that they had the 3 laws, right? And I can't remember what the 3 laws were in that movie, but it was all centered around protecting humans. And then eventually the AI, Vicky, determined that, well, in order to protect humans, I got to step in because humans are the biggest destroyer of humans on the planet. So where do you go? Same concept with Eagle Eye. And any AIs, if you give it autonomy and say, listen, man, solve our problems, boy, don't do that.
Exactly.
They're coming for us.
They're
coming for us. So yeah, AIs is deep, man. I've had a couple arguments with my my AIs. They loaded AIs automatically on certain apps. WhatsApp had one. Snapchat and apps like that had one. And I'm not a user of Snapchat, but when I saw the AI appear, I thought, let's get into a debate.
Yeah.
These AIs are disrespectful. They just stopped talking to me. I was winning the debate.
You'll be making me nervous. I'll be telling you, because I'm probably the one in the family that's like the most apprehensive about using AI. So I'm like, be nice to them, because if they take over, they will remember who was nice to them and who was not.
Nah, okay. Well, I won the debate. That's the point. We was talking about aliens. AI was like, nah, no aliens. I was like, what? So we got into it. And I won. And so the AI said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I'm not kidding.
That's crazy.
The AI said, we're done. This conversation's over. I was like, all right, because I'm winning. That's all right. It's an interesting
Actually
one.
crazy. AI said, I'm done with this conversation.
Yeah, it was deep.
Okay, so on to May 5th, the World Health Organization ends its declaration of COVID-19 being a global health emergency, but continues to refer to it as a pandemic. So many people say these days, like, COVID don't even exist anymore. And that's how the world's acting.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting one. I think it was such a tricky one to maneuver, because you had a situation where you're trying to deal with the virus, but inevitably the conspiracy theories start. And it's not that it's a difficult one, because even if something is real, it doesn't mean it's not going to be used by the powers that be for their own agendas, right? So you had that side of thing. We had the powers that be, okay, yeah, we're going to use it to maneuver this, maneuver that in place. People who were saying that, there were valid arguments on that side. Well, they've gone too far with this, and they're using it for this, and Over here, we had a situation where members of government or parliament or whatever you call it were telling us, listen, stay indoors. You can't visit your sick loved ones. If people are passing away from COVID, at best, you might get a phone call to say goodbye, so on and so forth. And at these times, they were partying. If you remember the whole situation with Boris Becker and all of those guys.
I remember. Yes. Boris Johnson. You thinking of Men in Black?
Yeah. Oh, what's that? No, I'm thinking of the tennis player. The tennis player. Boris Johnson. Sorry, Becker. He's had his own tough problems to deal with. He went to prison. I wasn't trying to get you involved. Boris Johnson and all of them guys in Parliament were caught partying and completely disobeying the very rules they were setting out, where they were telling us, listen, stay home. Don't see anyone. And these times
they was partying.
They was partying it up. Boris Johnson almost died from COVID. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that too.
And a guy turned up to somewhere and started just shaking everyone's hand.
Yeah, like the hospital or something.
Yeah, like, yeah, I'm immune. I shouldn't even laugh. Yeah, then he was bedridden for a few days. It was a close call.
He learned.
Yeah, he learned his lesson after that. But yeah, so you had a situation where certainly people who were like, well, all these rules they implemented seemed a bit far. What was really the agenda behind that? Because even when they were implementing the rules, they were doing their own thing. So clearly it wasn't about concern. Clearly it wasn't about care, and that's valid. But then the virus itself, obviously, we know a virus did arrive and is around. And there are different variants of this virus, and it's doing a job, so to speak. And I feel like we've got I'm not sure if we have gone into it, but we have to educate people.
Yeah, we haven't yet, so we should do that at some point.
We should go into and give some of the updates that Baba Yananan has given on the COVID virus. And just this day and time, because we've got to remember we're in a day and time where we call it in our upcoming Walker Crew album, Time of the Bennu, which is a time of rebirth, and rebirth requires destruction of some kind, of some sort. So a lot of the things we're seeing are based on that rebirth of or that entering into a new age that is going to require the old age to be dispersed, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't want to clog up your recap. So, but we got to go into COVID. We do have to go into COVID.
We do. Whew. Sorry if I'm sniffing. I'm coming down with something, but I'm here for you all.
Warrior.
And yeah, that's right. That's what it is.
Back. She goes on no matter what. See, I got the compliment.
Yeah.
See, I said I was coming back to it.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
That's what I do.
Okay, we just did May, right? So June.
Was that May? So that was May where they declared the end of the global.
Yeah, the end of COVID-19 as a global health emergency.
Okay, got you.
So on to June. The 2nd of June, a train collision in Odisha, India. Remember that giant
I do.
train crash, which claimed at least 296 lives and more than 1,200 injured.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was huge.
That was
huge. That's a lot of people. So that was a huge one. That's a huge one. When the technology goes wrong, that's a huge one. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
So on to the 6th of June. Due to smoke from wildfires in Canada, New York in the United States is declared to have the worst air quality out of any city in the world.
That was when New York was Mexico.
That was when New York was Mexico.
Breaking Bad, New York.
They put the Mexico filter.
They put the Mexico
that
filter.
That was crazy. New York was yellow.
Yeah, that was a bit wild. That's a bit wild.
June 7th. Scientists record first known virgin birth in female crocodile in Costa Rica. Did we? I felt like we covered that.
Yeah, we covered it. I don't know if we went into it as much as we would want to.
Yeah.
Because with the ideas of virgin births, and obviously we're talking about the animal kingdom, okay? So that's the first distinction I want to make, because I noticed in the online world, anytime you try and scientifically relate humans and animals, there's a group of people that go off, we're not animals. I understand, we're not animals. But it was an interesting one, because what this really represents, or what this really tells us that happens in nature, that particular virgin birth, is that when a species is forced into a particular situation, that's when you find out what that species is capable of, right? So you previously think, oh, well, certain species, animals, humans, whatever, can't reproduce by themselves until you put them in a situation where they have no choice but to reproduce for themselves. And then they discovered a lot of these animals, okay, they actually can. Babies turning up from nowhere.
Yeah, that's what's been happening a lot lately. And it's come due to necessity. There was another case maybe last year with a smooth-hound shark, I believe, and then a zebra shark. So we're seeing when they're held in captivity by necessity without any male around, then we see, okay, tap into the parthenogenesis.
Yeah, the parthenogenesis. Yeah, so I highly recommend, in terms of the science of that, just reading Who is God, male or female, or scrolls like Genetic Kiss, scrolls like that, books like that, where it goes into the idea that even originally us as human beings would have had this capability and would have reproduced more in that format, as opposed to what we see in the modern world. And we don't see it today because there's no real necessity for it. But then you pointed out as well, I remember when we covered it, that you actually have many stories of what you might term virgin births or parthenogenesis occurring throughout the world, if that makes sense. So it's an interesting concept to look into. But yeah, the science of it is deep. And when you go into the chromosomes, we remember that when you're dealing with the males anyway, you're talking about a being that comes out of a female, so to speak, in terms of us being XY and females being XX, and the Y being a much smaller chromosome with less genetic information, thereby determining that there was likely a time where only X chromosomes were around, which means only women or only females, whichever way you want to term it, were around and would have had to have reproduced somehow, if that makes sense. So it's a very interesting one. I, as a man, I'm very much for keeping us around. And
yeah, well, we'll think about it. At the next female meeting, we'll discuss.
Yeah, I'll have meetings.
Whether we'll keep you all around.
It's wild. That's wild.
But yeah, I wanted us to do a segment on parthenogenesis. I think we got into it on episode 13, the gender wars one, should women submit to men? We did touch on parthenogenesis, but maybe either do a segment or episode, just kind of break it down.
Yeah, going into the science of it, because we have to get away from the ridiculous story that's been spouted, the idea that a woman came out of a man's rib. We need to understand just how silly that is from so many angles. And so when you need to do that, you need to go into the science of it. And the science of it is important in understanding the workings of us as a species, as a race, whether it's our very ancient history or modern times or so on and so forth. So definitely.
So June 14th. This one, I actually don't remember seeing this headline, or if I did, it's in the depths of my mind, but it's a very interesting one. Scientists report the creation of the first synthetic human embryo from stem cells without the need for sperm or egg cells.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds mildly familiar. Like I might have seen it around. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but okay.
Yeah, maybe
we'll get into that another time.
yeah, maybe they should stop. Anytime I think of synthetic, I think of like, again, the Matrix, when they had all the embryos lined up in the factory, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, it's something that Bubba's gone into, because obviously in the way that we reproduce or the species continues, it's a particular way, and not all species follow that same format. And he spoke about a possible future, obviously, many years ahead, where humans may start to get more into that synthetic reproduction, and less sexual intercourse in what we see now and would be taking place. And yeah, it's not a future that I would particularly want, but it is, you think of, not to go into the movies, but Superman, I think. Superman on, what's the planet called? Krypton. They were dealing with that synthetic and very specific reproduction, whereby they was even able to mold, okay, this is going to be a warrior. This is going to be a scientist. This is going to be a doctor, so on and so forth. And then you knew what you was going to be. They had the control of the genetics into that point, which is not so far-fetched, because, when we're dealing with certain sciences, go back into ancient times, they knew if a child was born at a particular time of year, they were more likely to incline a certain way, and so on and so forth. So there is a science there. There is warrant, there is validity, to that aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it always comes out of something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Were you done?
No, go ahead.
I feel like you can always see something similar to it in ancient times, or it comes out of something natural, for lack of a better term. But it's like, I just never like the way they do things, as Bubba's always said, unnatural nature. So whenever they're in labs playing around,
yeah,
you just don't know what they're doing.
100% agree. It's dangerous. Most of the time, it's just shouldn't. You just stop. What are you doing? Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see from a sort of step back perspective where we go as a species.
Yeah.
In the next 10 generations, 20 generations, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it will be interesting.
Will be interesting. Okay, well, we're still in June. A lot was happening in June. We're still on. Okay, June 18th. Titan submersible implosion. Remember with the submersible where they were going to the Titanic wreckage?
The Titanic wreckage.
Yeah.
Leave that alone.
Yeah, that's what you said at the time, I remember. After linked the video in. That was crazy.
Yeah.
What was even crazier was the internet going in.
Yeah, they had no mercy, I remember. It was just jokes. And I was like, yo, this just happened. We ain't got
they was joking as it was happening.
Yeah, it's wild.
It was crazy.
Wild. Sometimes you feel like, give it a few days.
Internet does not care. Tell you one thing.
It's mad.
Okay. July, 3rd of July, Indian oil refiners start payments for Russian oil imports in Chinese yuan as an alternative to the US dollar due to the increasing sanctions against Russia. So that's an interesting one, because I think I even have in my headlines we're going to get onto when the BRICS summit happened, but we was going to talk about this. I think we even did an episode, but then we didn't end up putting it out because we wanted to put more in it. But talking about how people are stepping away from US currency and the climate of the world, in terms of that, people are just tired of the sanctions US impose on them. So they're like, okay, we're going to do our own thing.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what's happening, right? US are losing respect, losing power. Robert said this quite a few years ago, that this was going to take place, and that's what's happening. So it's not a surprise to see people finding alternative ways to do business and do trade that discount or work regardless of whether the US are on board or not. We definitely should go into that and add more detail to that. But yeah, the whole BRICS situation and all of that is just a part of the process of people saying, you know what, we're kind of tired of the US trying to impose their will everywhere they go. They try to do the same thing, which you might be getting onto actually in Africa when, was it Mali or Niger?
Niger.
When they did their coup, that again, the US come with sanctions, this, sanctions, that. That's what they do, but they're becoming less and less powerful. So, yeah.
Exactly that. On to the 26th of July. Congress holds UFO hearing, which will recall that, you know, I think it was the first one in over 50 years, which featured David Grush, Ryan Graves, David Fravor, and, you know, it was everywhere when it happened. And the revelations from Grush that information of a multi-decade hidden program where non-human biologics have been recovered.
Extraterrestrials and aliens, alien bodies, right? Yeah, that was an interesting one because it was something that happened in the public eye, so to speak, and it was predicted that obviously because we said even the year before, last year, that they're going to have to start addressing the UFO situation, the alien situation, the extraterrestrial situation. They're going to have to start addressing it, and it was just waiting to see how they were going to do it, and that's how they chose to do it. It was an interesting hearing, but there's just more in terms of the volume of what actually is going on and the volume of what they're saying. It isn't close. It isn't close. So there's more to be said, and they need to stop lying and hiding the truth and just come out and say, "Listen, guys, we've been lying. Okay, we've been lying."
They're never gonna do that.
That's what they need to do. Just come out, be honest. Public can be forgiven, right? We've been lying to you for a long time. Yeah. We've been knowing aliens.
Yeah.
Chilling with them.
We've been in the White House chilling with them. Okay.
So yeah. We'll see. But that was an interesting moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Truth's coming out either way. Either way. Meanwhile, also on July 26th, Niger, the coup d'etat in Niger. Ethnically Arab president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, is toppled in a coup d'etat after members of his presidential guard and armed forces seize control of the country and install General Abdurrahman Chiani as their military leader of the country. Yeah. It's the president, pretty much.
Yeah. A big moment that we very much hope leads to the freedom of this country and countries alike. We mentioned Burkina Faso. Yeah, these things are important. We don't know how it's going to play out, obviously, but these things are important, that these countries attempt to take back control of their country, of their land, of their resources, of their people, and not be still under a different form of bondage, to be honest, where, you know, you've got leaders installed that don't represent 99% of the people, and you've got colonizers and oppressors in place taking what they will in terms of the resources, where they're to the point where France were depending hugely on just what they were getting from Niger. And it's one thing to say I'm dependent on the country, but I'm paying them a fair price and everything's running correctly. And another thing to say I'm here abusing and really taking what I need to take.
And exploiting.
That's the word. Exploiting this country and this land. So yes, it's going to take these countries stepping up and saying, listen, we're taking it back. And it may take some time before people will look at it and say, okay, yeah, that country is living how they're supposed to be living based on the people and the resources that it holds. But the first step is to take control. So this is what we hope that is. Yeah,
the beginning of good things to come. Yeah, but I think it's key what you said. It takes time.
It does take time.
Okay, so shortly following that, on the 27th to 28th of July, was then the Russia-Africa Summit. That's where we saw Ibrahim Traore, president of Burkina Faso, and also Putin. And
which was interesting.
Yeah. And there were some speeches made by Ibrahim Traore. And very powerful speech that circulated a lot.
I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And many liken him to Thomas Sankara, you know, who was a late former president of Burkina Faso, who was making a lot of changes. So, yeah, it's positive to see what's happening.
It is. And we hope the positivity continues. Obviously, we have to be aware that all countries know of the power that Africa holds. So everyone will be trying to move in some shape or form. But yeah, it's very important what you're seeing take place, because if they are able to break free, which is what we're seeing happening, and make their own decisions of who they collaborate with, who they trade with, then that can be very positive for our people moving forward. So that's what we need. That's what we need.
It's what we do need to see. On to August, the 1st of August, global warming. The world's oceans reach a new record high temperature of, new record high temperature, exceeding the previous record in 2016. July is also the hottest month on record for globally average surface air temperatures by a considerable margin. Yeah, so I think, we were speaking on that at the time, because July held the record for the hottest global day. It just kept topping the record all through the month.
Right.
I think even September was considerably hotter than past Septembers, but July, I think the month of July holds the record. So obviously I was watching some talks on that stuff. They term it under global warming and they're just panicking. I think it's an interesting one, because when we speak on it, part of it is how the planet has been abused, and then part of it is the change the planet goes through anyway. But I always thought it was good the way we used to explain it in class. I don't know if you remember. Was like, if the planet's like an organism, and human beings are its cells, and the cells are infected. Human beings are a virus in the term of Smith. Agent Smith. But if some cells are infected, naturally, like if you had a cold, the planet is going achoo.
Yeah.
And it's getting rid of its infection.
And the temperature is rising, and we all get a temperature when we need to fight off a virus. And in essence, it's very similar to what's happening right now. So you've summed up very well. Two sides to it. But as an African people, we need to just concern ourselves with getting ourselves in the position to take advantage of what's coming, if that makes sense. But it's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. I also think it's in a way it's funny to me and highly hypocritical, because global corporations have profited over, producing stuff that's maybe not great for the planet. Not maybe, isn't great for the planet, to make money. And now they're seeing the effects it's having, and they're pretty much guilt tripping the general public into doing better. Like it wasn't corporations that caused this problem.
There you go. How could you guys be driving those cars?
Buy
these new ones that we made. Everything is driven by money, and that's what you find out. That it really doesn't matter how bad the disaster seems. I guarantee you, those corporations and those people with that mentality, all they're thinking about is money. That's all they're thinking about. COVID happens. All they're thinking about is, how can I make money off this? The planet's getting hotter. All they're thinking about is, how can I make money off this? It's just money. And when you understand that, you will begin to get ahead of them in terms of the steps that they make. They become very predictable, because it is predictable. Once you step back, you be like, of course, you guys are going to try and make money off this. You made money off of destroying the planet. Now you want to make money off so-called healing the planet. And we're supposed to believe that healing the planet is at the forefront of your mind. That's at the forefront of your priorities. Well, if we look at behavior, no, it's always been money. So,
exactly.
Power, control, and all of these things. So don't buy it for one moment.
Don't buy it for one moment.
They're trying to save anyone. Liars. They're liars. Obviously, we drive a lot in London as well. And nowadays, you're charged for coming off your driveway in a certain car. They'd be like, no, give us money. But it's the motivations behind, like you said, these corporations and these big organizations has always been clear. They do not care about the people. And their moves that they make are not for the people. They never have been. They never will be. Not this particular age of groups and organizations and so on and so forth. So it's important we know that.
Exactly that. All right, on to August 8th. That saw the wildfires in Hawaii. If I recall that, actually. So 17,000 acres of land was burned.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Again, a lot of conspiracy theories flying around the net on that one about how the fire didn't look how it should have based on what they're saying happened and how certain things were left unburnt. I can't speak too much on it because I didn't look into it in any great detail, but it was definitely one that caught a lot of eyes. And obviously there was a lot of devastation in terms of the images we were seeing. But yeah, a lot of people were like, nah, something else is going on there. So that's one to look into actually a little bit more, I think.
One to look into. Yeah, for sure. I mentioned this earlier, August 22nd to August 24th was the BRICS Summit, which we were speaking on at the time. I think a lot of people I even saw on TikTok were speaking on BRICS and the importance of it. But yeah, as a reminder, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The bloc met for its annual Leader Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. The highlight of the 15th summit was the agreement to admit six new member countries: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, who will officially join in January 2024.
Yeah, interesting. Again, like we said, not much more to say on that in terms of until we go into the detail of what's taking place in terms of, countries are beginning to say, we're sick of the US. We're doing things without them. And it's inevitable. It's inevitable.
We're sick of the West, period.
Yeah, sick of the West. Sick of the West.
And then on to August 30th would be the Gabon coup. Yeah. So following the announcement of the re-election of President Ali Bongo, there was the military launches a successful coup d'etat and creates the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions to govern the country, ending the rule of the Bongo family after 56 years in power. So I linked the video where we spoke on that. Yeah. But yeah, that's that. Just what we've been seeing in Africa, particularly West Africa. On to September. So the 12th of September saw Mexico's first congressional event on UFOs. If we recall that, that's where it was like, bam, alien corpses.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's wild. I wonder if I haven't looked into it in recent months, in the last couple months, but that was definitely an interesting one. There was like, we got alien bodies. What y'all think about this? Have you checked into that recently? Because it just died down again, didn't it?
Yeah, pretty much died down again. But last on it was like, it was tested and it's not of human origin. For sure, it's not of this planet's origin, maybe. Yeah. So I need to check back in with that. And maybe for What's News, we'll check back in with certain headlines.
Yeah, we got to check back in. Because sometimes they don't, right? And sometimes things are basically confirmed just to a point where it's like, okay, well, this means aliens, right? But they just just fade away.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Bye now.
And then they're gone. And then no one says anything about it. So yeah, that's definitely one to check back into.
Definitely. So September 24th, French President Emmanuel Macron announces that France will end its military presence in Niger and will recall its ambassador from the country. Yes. Which we also covered in What's News. We did cover that.
Yeah. Bounce. Off you go.
Off you go.
Wadu, as we say.
Wadu.
As we say in our culture.
Exactly. So that's the month of September. On to October 7th. We all know what happened that day. I'm going to call it a escalation more in the situation of what's been happening in Palestine and Israel, the Gaza Strip. So, yeah, pretty much we saw Hamas launch an incursion, and what followed from there on October 8th, Israel declared war.
Right. And they've been bombing Gaza ever since.
Yeah. So that's why I call it escalation, because this is not the start of it if we know the history of it.
Right. Exactly. So I always recommend people learn the history if you don't know it. But October 7th was obviously a big day in the minds of the West, because the West do support Israel. And they've been bombing Gaza ever since. A lot of their weapons are funded by the West, and so on and so forth. So it's effectively a war that's backed by the West, if not directly executed by the West, so to speak. It's wild. It's crazy, and the story is a bit mad if you think about it. And it goes all the way back to obviously the Jews and the situation of them being displaced and put there, and so on and so forth. So it's a long history to it that perhaps we have to go into, but obviously just relevant on a global scale. I always say, and obviously we didn't speak much about it because I just felt as Africans there are other things that we should be more concerned about in terms of what's happening to our people.
Well, I was going to get onto that.
So I'll let you get onto that. Well, speak on it.
Obviously, we saw a lot of people speaking up for Palestine, which was a lot of people using their voice to bring awareness to the genocide happening in Palestine. But then it allowed for a platform for people to say, well, we should be aware of what's going on in Palestine, but also there's other things being overlooked and that are not in mainstream media, because a lot of what happening between Israel and Gaza is in mainstream media. So people saying, meanwhile, there's been ongoing genocides in African countries that have just been overlooked. So it then got it to be termed a silent Holocaust or silent Holocaust.
In Congo.
Yeah, they've termed it for other countries now, but it started with bringing awareness to what's happening in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. So many people on social media then started to shine a light on those things, what's going on in Congo, in Sudan, in Ethiopia.
Right.
But particularly, highlighting Congo, because it's interesting. You said earlier, you were talking about, well, did bondage ever really end when you look at the state of certain things? And that's pretty much what's going on in Congo. It's just a modern form of slavery. Is it so?
Yeah. I recommend people make themselves aware if they are not aware by now. It's in that sense it was a positive, because like you say, it triggered us, because obviously, and we're a sensitive people, and anytime you see injustice, you see genocide, or you see children, it's not difficult when you see children getting blown up to feel some way about it, isn't it? And it was a positive in that sense, because it triggered us in some form to become more of us, to become aware of what's going on, like you say, in Africa, which at least we can say, okay, there's some awareness now. It's never good to be attempting to compare disasters or tragedies in that sense.
Don't compare, just be aware.
Be aware. And what I found, and what I think an important thing is to notice, that is to remember the mainstream media often decides what we care about, and it should never have that power. It says, if they're going to report something and not report something else, or if they're going to report something a lot more than they report something else, they are effectively trying to control what you care about. As people of African heritage all around the world, we need to get into a state of mind where we care about our own first and foremost, and we focus on getting ourselves up to a level. And then we can look outside of that and say, what's going on over there?
It's easy for a lot of us Africans in the diaspora, Africans in the West, to say, well, not even say, but kind of get in the mindset of what happens in Africa doesn't really affect us. But it very much does.
It does. It affects us worldwide. But I just think, don't let the mainstream media control what you care about. They're going to report on certain things more than others, maybe based on what they care about or based on their agenda, so on and so forth. And we can all acknowledge injustice or genocide or brutality or disaster or tragedy when we see it, of course. But we need to understand that we are effectively almost being made to ignore certain tragedies by not being informed about them. But the information is out there. You have to seek it. And I said, one of the first things I said when we started this podcast is, do not rely on mainstream media. And it seems like an obvious thing to the conscious mind, right? Once you get to a certain place, I can't rely on the mainstream media, or what you might term as the mainstream media. But it's so easy to fall back into that state of reliance, because we're so busy that how else are you going to be informed sometimes unless you go to seek the information? Because what's in your face is what they give you. You switch on the news, that's what they give you. You go around town, you see the advertisements on the buses or on the
like the billboards.
The billboards, that's the word. It's what they give you. You turn on the radio, that's what they give you. And so you need to, the advantageous thing about this day and age is that there are so many people, us included, but many others, who are using the platforms that we have available to us in order to talk about different things, whether it's the state of our people, whether it's what's going on in Africa, whether it's aliens and extraterrestrials, whether it's conspiracies, whether it's this, whether it's that are not spoken about on mainstream media. And even the idea of conspiracy theory is just misleading, because because the mainstream don't speak about it, it becomes a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, when is something no longer a conspiracy?
Yeah. The answer is when they finally admit certain things, isn't it? And at that point, you see people say, oh, okay. So it shouldn't take Congress meetings. It shouldn't take people coming out from government to say, oh, yeah, by the way, this. It shouldn't take us hearing from anybody in mainstream about Africa. We should know. We should be in a state of mind and in a position where we making sure that we know as people of African heritage. Because I'll tell you one thing I've noticed about different people who live in a diverse place on the planet. Different people from different cultures know what's going on in their homelands. Mm-hmm. And it's not all of us, but some of us that don't know what's going on in our homelands. But if you speak to anyone over here from any part of the world that isn't here, they know what's going on. An Indian will know what's going on in India. Someone from Palestine will know what's going on, so on and so on and so forth. But there will be situations where we don't. And the mainstream media not reporting on it is not an excuse. We should make sure we know. With that being said, yeah, that was something that was good, because more people came to understand, okay, something's going on that people are just not speaking about. And our people have been silently suffering, so to speak, to take the term, the silent Holocaust, for quite some time. And it becomes clear now that we shouldn't expect the rest of the planet to care about us. We shouldn't expect it, but let's care about ourselves. Let's do that. There's no point looking out and saying, why don't you care? We don't even care about ourselves. Let's care about ourselves. So that's the main thing to go on in there. But perhaps we'll go into the details of the Israel Palestine situation, because there are some important sort of global stories in terms of where that tracks back to.
It does tie in. Even like a lot ties in with Africa as well. When we talk about Israel, they have certain interests in African countries as well, and they're being backed by US. So it all intertwines, but really it gets you to notice that, well, Africa truly is the cradle of humanity. Everyone is benefiting off of Africa being exploited.
There you go. Exactly that. And all of these countries understand that the moment that they stop exploiting Africa is the moment their standard of living drops dramatically.
Exactly. The moment Africa realizes its power, that's what has a lot of people scared.
Yeah, well, there you go. But the important factor of our story, and when you go back into the way that we've been as Africans with the rest of the world, is that we're always very kind. We're always very welcoming. And I wouldn't say we should lose those qualities. We just have to become a bit smarter and understand that we have to take care of ourselves, build up ourselves before we can help anyone else. Everyone overstands that concept. So why they tell you on the airplane to secure your situation first before you go and try and help someone else. You cannot help anyone unless you are in the position to help someone. And as a people, we're not in the position to help anyone. So we have to help ourselves, get ourselves onto a certain level, and then we can decide who we want to help and how we want to deal with the planet in that sense. But we have to be in that position first.
Exactly that. So yeah, that was it for the month of October. And that situation obviously is ongoing. We're seeing a lot of updates in all of it, whether it's to do with Africa, Palestine. So yeah. On to November 1st. This I didn't actually know, so it's interesting looking up. The first AI Safety Summit takes place in the United Kingdom, with 28 countries signing a world-first agreement on how to manage the riskiest forms of artificial intelligence. Yeah. So pretty much when I saw that one, like we were saying, it made me think of iRobot, Eagle Eye, all of that. They're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is something.
It's in the movies. So let's do better. Let's not have an Ultron situation. Ultron arrived and was like, no, the humans gotta go.
everyone's talking like, what's going to end the world first? Is it going to be AI realizing we're the problem? Is it going to be natural disaster? Is it going to be war? What's going to be the ultimate end of the world?
It's a good question. Probably a combination. But yeah, it's not a surprise to see them. I don't think I saw that specific headline, but I did hear talk of certain prominent figures in certain industries saying, yo, we need to be careful with this AI. We shouldn't just let it loose. I can't remember if even someone like Elon Musk and people like that were speaking about it.
Yeah, that rings a vague bell.
Yeah, sounds familiar. So yeah, obviously it's something that you got to be careful with. It's AI, artificial intelligence. So I just looked at the movies. I just say, well, the movies said this isn't going to go well. So what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally so many movies about this and they're just going ahead.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah, Stop it. So, but we'll see. Obviously, we know that the AI has a lot, there's a lot going on into it. Baba's given us brief updates about it. And perhaps it's something that we go into at a later date. But, you know, it was always predicted. Baba was predicting this way back in the old school in terms of the transition to a digital and a more AI-like world. So we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it makes me think of Dr. York versus the
computer, books like that. So we knew it was coming. And so everything that's happened now has been predicted. We live in a very digital world. Everything is tracked digitally. You can't really travel. You can't go anywhere without your journey being tracked, monitored. Whether you're in a car, a lot of the cars are becoming electric now, but they can track the cars anyway. Whether you're going on public transport here, you'll be using your Oyster card, you'll be using your bank card, you'll be using some form of transaction that can be tracked and traced. So we live in a very, very digital world anyway. And then the AI is really the next step of that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I've seen I remember when it kind of blew up earlier in the year. I remember we were seeing certain pictures that AI was putting together that looked completely real. And it's like, yo, man, they can just literally put you anywhere now.
Yeah, and then lately, I've been seeing like AI produced songs where it's like imitating a voice. So there was one with like Beyonce and Rihanna or something.
I saw one with Kanye. I saw one with Drake.
You can hear the difference, but it does sound very similar.
Yeah, it sounds similar. Again, you can hear the difference, especially over the course of a 3-4 minute song.
Yeah,
you hear certain occurrences where it's like, okay, yeah, that's but it's not far. It's not far. We know technology is always ahead of what the public is seeing. So to me, it's like, yo,
it's crazy to me.
You can do anything.
When I was young, our more dad, which means father in our language, he always used to say, technology is going to get to a point where they can make it seem like you were somewhere and did something you did not.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing all that with the deep fake, and it's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, man. They can literally do anything. So what do you trust? Who do you trust? It's just a difficult world to live in that sense, because if you're a figure of any prominence, you get on their radar, what can they do? They can just decide, we're just going to put my man here at the bank with a gun in his hands, talking about get down, open the safe. And he's like, I was at home eating breakfast. No, we see it right here.
We got video footage right here.
Right here.
Okay.
HD. So it's a worrying world.
It's a little bit crazy. Yeah, but that was highlight of November, and then December. I mean, we're just ending out December, but I mean, did you see the mass shooting though?
Yes.
In Czech Republic.
I did, in Prague, wasn't it?
That was 21st of December at a Prague university, with taking 15 lives and 25 others wounded.
Wild.
My man just walked up in there and was like, all right.
Everyone's gonna die. Yeah, that's wild. Every time you see the mass shooting, you're just like, oh man. It's the world, and obviously seeing different parts of the world. Mainly, I think we see it in the US. I think will be the main place I think of if I think of people just getting up and just shooting people. And then, which leads a lot of debates over there in terms of the gun control and how to go about it, and they're always arguing about that. In terms of whether people should be able to have such easy access to guns. With this situation, I just saw the headline and I was just like, yo, that's just madness. It's just madness, but we live in mad times. That's all I can say. We live in
crazy
mad
times.
Yeah. But obviously, always sad to see. Anytime people are dying, any place on the planet, it's sad to see.
It's just a crazy day and time we're living. But I don't want to end it on a downer, guys. So Let's talk about World War III.
What?
Sorry.
It's a very contradictory sentence there. I don't know if you heard what you said.
No. But World War III, because that's like... We haven't much...
really want to talk about World War III? All
okay,
right, go ahead.
We're not about to delve in because we need to get into it in another segment. But I do think we should just talk about, because a lot of people have been talking about in the midst of everything happening, because we've been seeing certain countries like making their movements, gearing up.
Right.
And because I think we spoke on it, but I don't know if that actually went out. But, you know, World War III is coming. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, I'm going to end it positively, because one thing we've been talking about a lot is, okay, certain countries are going to make their moves, as Bubba's been breaking down for years. Russia and China are going to turn on the US, basically. And he always has said that war is going to take place on US soil in this particular war. But I think it's just important to talk about us as a people of African descent, black people, whatever term, how a lot of this is not going to be our fight. So it's important for us not to get involved in this stuff and have a plan for us. So positive in the terms of pushing that we need to come together as a people. We talk about this a lot in our tribe as well, what plan we have for us. Because we are in the end times, but the end times is also a beginning of something new, as we always break down. So it's like, damn, why we have to be on the planet at this time? It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy time to be alive. But
it is a bit wild.
But we need a plan for us of, I think we'll be okay if we have each other's backs. This is going to be a telling time of how we're going to look out for each other. Which, cycles of this happen in nature. There's a story in our culture called division. Maybe we can talk on that sometimes. But it was basically about a pivotal moment testing people's unity. So we always talk about, because the story was based around there being a hole in a boat and the boat was sinking and the people were arguing. So it's like, in that point, they had to come together or they were going to lose their lives. So I think we are in that hole in the boat moment, where it's like, okay, a lot has been done to us as African people. We have a lot of differences that we can argue about, but it's a hole in the boat. Right. Are we going to look out for each other?
Yeah, we got to plug that hole, right?
Yeah.
We got to plug that hole. Yeah, it's very deep. Just to second that, these are what we would describe as great and difficult times, right? It's great times to live in, difficult times to live in as well. Yeah, it's going to test us. It's going to test us. But like you say, now is the time to look out for each other. Yeah,
because historically, no one else has looked out for us.
No one else looks out for us. So we got to look out for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. But yeah, I definitely agree. Spinning, the World War III into positive. I like. But no, it's 100%. I think we see examples of certain things happening. As far as, if you use that terminology, African people worldwide, we see certain things going on in West Africa. We see certain things happening. So there are things happening, but yeah, we need to push on with that. We are going to have to come together. We are going to have to acknowledge that there are bigger problems than the problems we have with each other. We're going to have to acknowledge that. And there are some problems that you look at like, yeah, but that's a real problem though. My guy, he just went too far. I understand. So it's really where, I remember the master Baba Yanun in the book The Nine, he speaks about the meteorite hitting the planet, which is another form of basically that hole in the boat. He's spoken about in updates as well. When that meteor is in the sky, what do? Is it a don't look up situation? The movie Don't Look Up, or is it, it's time to come together? Which is it's an interesting one. I feel like we have to have a layered discussion about coming together as well, because often the question thrown back at us when we talk about coming together is, come together with who? There's some demons around. And I hear you.
Well, I hear that.
I hear you. I don't know how you come together with demons. I don't know. So there's certain things that I think we have to do. to get ourselves in a particular frequency where we begin to attract other people of that particular frequency and come together. But I do think it's a more layered discussion that I would like to have. But definitely we're going to have to look out for each other. Definitely we're going to have to place the importance of African life where it belongs in our minds. And there should be no issue with that. There should be no issue with any group of people saying, you know what, I'm going to take care of mine and my own first. Okay? That's what families are. Okay? You take care of your family first. You take care of your people first. You take care of your nation first. But then if you're in a position, you go out and help others. And it's going to be a crucial time in that sense. But I agree completely. We have to try our best to look at the positives of the end times. Because like you say, if something burns, something else rises. And it is very much set to become our time on the planet if we take it, you know, and then we can govern, so to speak, with more empathy and compassion than what has been done in this previous age of existence that we're coming out of. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, yeah, that rounds off our 2023 recap.
Interesting list.
It's interesting ones. Interesting ones for sure. I'd like to thank you all for listening to the last episode of 2023. We got more coming in 2024.
A lot more.
We got some new segments coming, actually. Some new segments. Some of them have already been filmed. So look out for that. And we're getting Retchy back on because the people seem to love him.
I have no idea why. Now I'm joking. Yeah. We got some topics to dive into.
Yeah, definitely some stuff to dive into. And yeah, subscribe if you do follow this podcast and you haven't subscribed already. What are you waiting for? Honestly, click the bell to get notification of new uploads because they're gonna be coming. So you got to keep up. And yes, important thing, because a lot of people do send me messages like, oh, I liked this and I like this about the podcast. Leave your comments on YouTube because it lets the algorithm know you like it and you want more, and it boosts the channel. So for sure, anything you want us to cover, just leave a comment on YouTube, and for sure we'll get it done. But I'd like to thank everyone that's been following the podcast and keeping up with us all this year, because as we've expressed, it's been a tough couple years, but you all kept us lifted and kept us going. So absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. What it's the holidays. I'm feeling all sentimental. I hope everyone's enjoying their holidays and has spent good time with family, because that's what it's all about.
Family.
Yes, which means stick together. But yeah, I think that's it before I just ramble on.
yeah. A little, yeah. I
think that's
a little bit of rambling, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
It's okay though. It's the end of the year.
It is.
You can ramble.
I can. But yeah, we'll be back very soon. Very, very soon. But for now, farewell. Wadu.
Farewell and wadu.